Welcome to the May 2023 edition of the Tough Love Arena State of the Game stream. I am Paul, your host tonight. I'm one of the co-creators of Tough Love Arena, playable right now at toughlovearena.com, the hottest browser-based indie fighting game. It's very cool and fun. And welcome to my monthly stream where I talk about everything Tough Love Arena, talk about the state of the game. We're going to do a little recap of last month, talk a little bit about the current state of game balance. I'm going to show you a patch that's currently in progress, and then we'll talk about stuff to look forward to in the future. Cough, cough, spoilers, combo breaker. So stick around to the end and you can join the Q&A. And if I don't see you there, you can always stop by and check this out on YouTube. We'll post it a few days later, and you can also leave comments there. So with that extra long intro out of the way, let's get started. Past. What did we do in April? A lot of it was sort of carrying through the rest of April Fools. The last day of the game happened right after the April Fools patch went live, and it was largely a tour of the April Fools patch. You can view that right now at youtube.com/c/toughlovearena. But I had to put out some balance patches. We had the big official tournament. It was a lot of fun. I think Grum won, which was upsetting. And then I had to clean it up and do some maintenance work. So that was super fun. I consider it a huge success. It was great. You can watch the tournament VOD, and I'm a very happy boy at the end of it. Stuff that I've been working on since then. I know Amy's been working slowly but surely on the garlic animation. Meanwhile, I have been working on a balance patch that I'm going to give you a sneak peek of, and I've been slowly working on the matchmaking changes. So my goal here, and I don't really have a good visual demo to show you right now, but my goal is to get to a point where you can matchmake anywhere. Meaning, right now, it was very tied to the structure of the menus, where you had to go to the main menu, into the online menu, into the casual menu, and that's where the matchmaking happened, and once it happened, then that took you to the game screen, basically, and it was all very nested. And now I'm trying to take matchmaking and essentially split it off and put it just hanging out over here next to everything else. So you can queue up for a match, you can queue up for both ranked and casual, and then go to training room, or play arcade mode, or play combo trials, or do whatever, and then get a pop-up saying, you found a match, do you want to fight this? And if you confirm, then it'll whisk you away from what you're doing into the online match. So I think it's a really exciting feature. I think it's a wonderful quality of life thing to have. And it's also kind of necessary for my plans to open source the rollback netcode. Like the rollback netcode itself, like, actually isn't that much. There's a few clever bits on the handshake side, but a lot of the value I see in open sourcing it is to give web developers a sort of drop-in solution for networking. I don't want to just give you like the small slice that is just, you know, how I brokered a connection, because that really won't make any sense in abstract. I want to be able to hand you like 5 different classes of like, here's how you make a connection, here's how you matchmake, here's how you roll back, and it's managed for you. And the matchmaker was really deeply intertwined with my menu system and this nested nature. So a benefit of splitting it out like this is now it will make that future work, that very slowly progressing future work of open sourcing everything, this was basically a necessary prerequisite. So killing 2 birds with 1 stone, it's going to be great. But it is very slow going. So in the meantime, I'm also working on the balance patch. Quick little data. We had a survey go out after the April Fool's tournament where it was the skin redemption form, but I also included some survey questions just to get the pulse of how people felt about it. I should have made that more explicit so that like our top 8 competitors could also fill out the survey, and I'll do that more next time. But from the responses I did get, I was happy to see that we had a pretty positive response to the overall tournament experience. I didn't bother copying over all the images, but people generally said that it was easy to find matches, and there were some very nice comments in the sort of open notes area. As for the monthly survey, our usual main data points that we care about: people still think the game is fun, people still think the game is easy, people want to play it again, and people are keen to recommend it to beginners. These are all super good to see. I always want to make sure that these numbers aren't going down. Also, this was a little higher than usual. This one can be a little bit more, just slightly above average, but I was happy to see currently a lot more people are more willing to recommend or are more likely to recommend it to experienced fighting game players. And I think part of that is also just, the natural complexity creep that has happened over 2.5 years of development. 2.5 years of public development? Holy crap. But, if I did my job correctly, it's all lenticular design, and it's not interrupting with the fact that it's still a premium beginner experience. So a highlight of some of the comments that I got in the free text areas in the monthly survey. I will leave these here for you to read. I'm not going to read them all out loud. That's not a very exciting way to give a presentation. But I was most excited, and I got to make sure that Shiggy sees this in case they're not watching the stream, that a lot of the comments looking forward to TLG. People are really hyped about TLG. They're talking about, like, I'm just excited to compete. I'm excited for the next competition to try and do better. It was super heartening to see. Also, someone said, what keeps you playing? And they just said depression. So I had to include that one. Will we take those? Question mark. Let's talk about the present. What is the current state of the game? So I talked a little bit about this. Actually, I meant to delete this side when I moved these bullet points to the previous, so we'll ignore that one. And the character balance. I believe the character balance is in an okay place. I don't think it's perfect, but no one is a current super outlier in terms of broken or terrible. I do think that the meat design could use some polish. For those who saw, again, last month's State of the Game, you'll notice that most of the April Fool's changes to beef were sort of experimental, the design and balance changes. And I don't think that beef is like in a bad place. I don't think beef is a boring character to play. I don't think beef is OP or weak. And pork also similarly. But just playing a lot, getting more and more fresh rounds of new players playtesting, I think there are places that... was that you, Mugima, in chat that made the depression jokes? I think there are some rough edges that could be sanded down. Specifically around jump and around making the neutral a bit more interesting. So my goal with these changes is not to affect the balance. My goal with these changes is just to make the meats more interesting characters to play and play against. And any adjustments we need to make to damage values or frame advantage in order to make sure that meat and pork don't get like buffed or buffed extremely, that will all get done and figured out in the testing I'm going to do. But let me give you a quick preview. So these changes are not final, but some changes include, and let me pull up my little cheat sheet on the other screen. Change number 1, Palm no longer launches. I talked about this a little bit last month, but basically there's no reason it needed to launch. It launched because I wanted to make the RC reward less rewarding, but the more obvious solution that it took me a year to realize, 2 years, is just take away the RC. Just don't let Palm RC, you know? If you went for the safer option, you committed to the safer option. Sorry, you don't get a combo. As a result, that has some other implications, so I had to remove Beef's Palm into Chop combo, or else it could accidentally create infinites, since you were no longer knocking them up as a way to make sure the combo ended. Something I'm trying out to make the neutral a bit more interesting, because I do think these characters are so defined by their heavy. It's a real good button, very versatile, very straightforward. It's why Beef is the default character. This is very much on purpose, but I wish that they had another button. I feel like every other character has a viable, if not optimal, just, a sometimes food, other heavy button. Whether that's the 4 H's for the carbs, or roundhouse for the spices, or hop kick, honestly. Which feels like more of just a neutral button than, an actual committal special move or something. So, a current idea that I'm playing with is Palm. Putting Palm on a command normal, currently back heavy, to match the carbs, which would purely just be used for... game stuttering. Purely used for just, like, Footsies for spacing, again, because you can't RC, you get nothing off of it. You just get a little bit of chip, a little bit of damage, and on hit, a frame advantage situation. I'm still tweaking what the damage would be, how much it should slide forward, how whiff punishable it should be. Right now, extremely. But I want to make it, and it has the weakness that it does go a lot further compared to the cancel one. Like, this just goes just far enough away to make sure it combos on normal hurt box situation, whereas the command palm travels some good distance. So if you do it up close, it is punishable. So still ironing out that, but I currently like how it's playing. Checking my notes. Ooh, so one of a change that I liked that I made was, it's actually easier to show this with Pork, is that landing uppercut on an airborne opponent always knocks down. That fixed problems where you would do a caber toss into an uppercut and suddenly it would be like punishable on hit. Now uppercut always knocks down and it gives you this really nice Oki situation. I'm a big fan of that. I think that's really nice. And from what I remember from months of surveys, Meat players are pretty positive on it. However, it did make it awkward in that, like, it was really hard in situations that were pretty easy to land with to end the combo and spike before. You kind of can't now. So, as a very small adjustment, you can now cancel the second hit of run into spike, but only when hitting airborne. So I can't cancel it there. It's purely just to help Pork convert certain combos into more damage, and I think very specific situations with Beef. So like if you launch in corner, you could do launch up, something like that. So that's a less dangerous experiment. And then a big one that I don't have ready to show, but you saw it in the April Fool's version of Beef, which you can play right now by going to April Fool's 2023 at toughlevelarena.com, is a shorter jump arc. And also experimenting with some of the other moves that are affected by these. Oh, also, normal throw, just being caber toss. That's an interesting one. So, more to come. My goal is to try and get the patch out in time for Combo Breaker, so I have a chance to see people playtest it in the wild. But, and that gives me a couple weeks, but I'm not promising that. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And now let's talk about the future. What do we have coming up? So the big one is, surprise, surprise, Combo Breaker. It is near the end of May, in about 2.5 weeks. I will be there along with some, I think it's okay for me to share that Handsome Phil and the Grum will be there helping me out with the booth at times. So we'll have a booth in Artist Alley like last year where you can come play on some free play setups, buy some merch, chat with me, beat me up, all that sort of stuff. But this year we're also running a side tournament. So if you're going to Combo Breaker, go to combobreaker.org/allinthis-together 2023, and you should see a place to sign up for the TLE side event. So please, if you haven't signed up already, check that out. I don't know when signups close for side events, but yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm currently ordering extra stickers and business cards. We've sold out on Garlic and Pork at Frosty Faustings, the two most popular characters in terms of merch. We'll have all the usual posters, and I'm preparing. Ooh, do I still have this on here? Is this within reaching distance? Yes. For anyone who has been to our IRL events, we have these fancy, where's the camera button? Yes, we have these fancy handouts that we leave at the setups that show the controls, explain some of the core mechanics, and then voila, show all the characters and explain basically what they're about and give like a sample move. Amy's been helping me redesign this, putting more evocative character art, like putting in caber toss and soup, and adding more combo information. So I'm really excited to get newer versions of this printed, also with updated onion art. So I'm personally very excited about that. And I think that's... Oh, made to do. So, I forgot this usually comes after the term announcements. The bulk of my focus will be on finishing the balance patch in time for Combo Breaker, and on the side also working on the Matchmaker. So, nothing super surprising. These are just my main focuses right now this summer. And otherwise, nothing super abnormal to announce there. We are still tentatively planning to have a tournament in July. No details picked. I'm still waiting to see how my work and like family travel schedule is gonna work. Fall out, slot in, whatever. So I just don't know like if it'll be easier for me to do at the beginning, middle, or the end of the month. But we'll have more news about that in the June state of the game. So look forward to that. And now we're at the Q&A. Yeah, Kevin, I think I could definitely at least bring the old ones and give them away as weird merch, as weird collectibles, I guess. The newer ones, like, I could technically just give away at the end of the weekend, but the idea is that I'm supposed to be able to reuse them at the next convention, but we've, like, printed new ones every convention, because just things happen, or we get feedback from the players, that, like, something wasn't obvious, so we add more notes, that kind of stuff. Let's pop back on over to the camera, and I will answer questions. Oh god, I'm so blown out. That's a little bit less shiny. I'm happy to answer any questions that chat may have. If not, we can sit and chat for a minute. This was a bit of a simple, quick, straightforward one. Pretty uneventful month, but some exciting stuff coming up on the horizon. Oh, can't go to Illinois. Oh, sorry, Kevin. Handsome Phil asks, are you excited to eat hot dogs at Combo Breaker? I forget, was this something notable last year? Or is it the joke that, like, the hot dogs cost $7 because it's con food? I mean, I'm excited to be at Combo Breaker, and when I'm at Combo Breaker, I'm sure I'll be excited to eat hot dogs because they will be fast and efficient food. Oh, Chicago style hot dog. Is that anything? So I grew up in Metro Detroit in Michigan, and we had chili dogs there. We had there's a name for it. A coney dog. I never usually got them. I'd usually get something else at the restaurants that serve coney dogs. But if it's anything like that, they look delicious. Moogie asks, have you thought about RC on noodle, kind of like Beef's lemon RC? If you're talking about on soup, no. Or let me say, I've thought about it and don't plan on adding it. I think the lemon needs the RC because it's very clear when Beef is started lemon. Lemon has that like projectile range, right? Where it is both very jumpable and also RCing lemon gives Beef a sort of, guaranteed approach. Asterisk against certain characters. I can't think of many scenarios where RCing the soup would be worth it, except in like super reaction moments where I wouldn't want to create a situation for Noodle where Noodle is placing all these soups and you finally get like a good jump while Noodles had just started a soup, and then they just RC on reaction in front of you and then resume the soup game. Because soup has the ability to be so much more layered and oppressive, and because you have, I just don't think it needs the RC. I don't know, it just doesn't seem like a good fit. Also with Beef, with the lemon, the whole idea is like you essentially have your active frames, which is releasing the lemon, and then just recovery. So an RC there makes sense. But arcing the soup would be what? Like you're canceling. It's like a. I forget which Guilty Gears, which colors, but is it like a startup RC before you've committed to the bowl? Or is it you are, once you've placed the bowl, you can cancel the little bit of recovery of Noodle going, like, less clean, less obvious. I don't know. Isid says, would you give Pork back plus throw to normal throw? And no, I think it would just replace throw. I think Pork would lose the ability to throw backwards. And lose the ability to do side switch. Correct. Which obviously has use cases when Pork gets cornered. But I think the upsides to having Caber all the time would be better. And the goal of doing this is to give Pork more obvious identity as the grappler. And this feels like it's something that I can do now that Caber has an identity besides being the command grab. Now it's the running bear grab, right? So my biggest issue for the first 2 years of Pork being live was, how do I differentiate Caber toss versus normal throw, especially at a time when they served very different purposes. Normal throw was proximity throw, all this crap. And how do I balance them so that they're both appealing options? But now I figure, let's just make neutral special the running move, which still has value because you can cancel into it. So it gives you unique tick opportunities from range. Whether with resets on juggling or just because you're doing it heavy and you want to go for it, or you want to start to run and feint the run. There's a lot of play there. That has nothing to do with the actual grab once it hits you. So in that case, rather than continuing to try and do this dance of making Caber a side grade of throw, and because I did get a lot of feedback on, Caber up close is a lot worse now because you basically have to do the run unless you're at kissing range, and it's very easy for someone to walk out of that, especially a Spice. That will no longer be the case. You can do Pork's thing. You can loop Caber if they're being defensive, and you don't have to worry about giving them 30 frames of startup to react to. So again, I'm confident that we can iron out from a balancing perspective, but it just makes so much more sense to me. Now, giving the back throw is an interesting idea, Isid, that I hadn't considered. And then it's just a matter of, I'm already breaking a rule by having Pork's throw different than the other characters, which I'm okay with. I think it's one of the cool things about having consistent rules is it's that much more impactful and notable when you break them. Because then you're like, oh, this character is different. This character gets to cheat. And that's exciting as a player. So I've learned that it's dangerous to give characters the ability to side switch at will. See Rice being able to combo into side switch for no downside, often for upside. So I hesitate a little bit about Pork being able to just so quickly reverse the situation. That would be the only reason why I think, when otherwise they can't control it, right? If Pork wants to have the very strong advantage of being able to loop throws in the corner, then he's going to have to lose the ability to just side switch whenever he wants to. Quote, whenever he wants to. Interesting thought, though. Let me say I wouldn't rule it out for V2, but right now I'm not interested in doing it. Easton says, I still feel uppercut has the issue where I want to combo after move because of animations and launch height. Yeah, no, I get that. It's hard because... Yeah. The only ways I saw... So the way it worked before is just I couldn't relaunch, but then you could create these, minus on block, minus on hit situations, depending on how you juggled it. And if I let it rejuggle, then he said, "Carefully, you're inspiring me." I was gonna say, this is why we talk about rubber ducking. These are conversations I don't have with myself when I work by myself. But now that I'm talking to another human being and I have to justify my decisions and I have to think about it out loud, I realize things in my argument, in my thought that, might be gaps, that might be assumptions, that might be mistakes. And the idea is that you're supposed to have a rubber duck on your desk, in this case modeled by a purple elephant, that can essentially serve as a proxy for a person. So I would talk to the elephant and be like, hey, Trunks, the reason why uppercut has to work this way is because it's either going to create unintuitive, punishable on hit situations, or I have to keep Trunks in camera, in frame, or it's going to create infinite combos if it relaunches, and that's obviously not desirable. Unless uppercut set the juggle limit to 1. Because it's impossible to, and it would have to be 1. If it's 2, you could infinite. Because if it's 2, you could juggle in such a way that you clip with the very top of heavy, you whiff with the charge, and then you hit with uppercut. Infinite combo, boom. But if it's just 1 hit, it's impossible to get back into another uppercut with only 1 juggle point. And then you could have a choice of jump attack for the knockdown, or for the damage, or a normal button for the closer knockdown. Interesting. Thank you, Chunks. I also have golden Trunks. Oh, that's shiny. I got this at an anime convention in 2014. It's very heavy. Hanson Phil says, there'll be a few Wolfpack shows in Brooklyn in November. Should I go? What is Wolfpack? Question mark. American Funk Band. In Ann Arbor, Michigan. Aw. I'll have to check that out later. It looks like there's no more questions tonight. We had a pretty chill crowd. So, last call. Otherwise, I will be shutting down the stream. Your favorite band? Ooh, big talk. Yeah, go. I can give you some recs. Some NYC recs. Good places to eat. And so on. Alrighty. Thanks for stopping by, Tough Lovers. Thanks for playing as always. Hopefully I'll see you, most of you, at Combo Breaker at the end of the month. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if I don't see you there, I will see you at the next day of the game in early June. And also maybe at one of the TLGs. I've been meaning to stop by again. Get my 1-2, maybe 2-2 record. But first I need to figure out how to get like a monitor that doesn't have half a second of lag. So we'll figure that out. Have a good night, everyone. Ta-ta.